Good evening, everyone. My name is Vishnu Menon, and the six of us here are first year MBA students at SJMSOM School of Management, IIT Bombay. We have arranged this seminar to address your queries and any queries that you might have regarding the application process. We will be taking you through the admissions criteria, the application process, as well as the interview experiences that we had at IIT Bombay. Before we begin, I would like the panelists to introduce themselves. My name is Vishnu Menon, and I am from Kerala. I am a mechanical engineer and have completed my BTech from Manipal Institute of Technology. I have 2.5 years of work experience as a supply and operations planner at ABB India Limited. My hobbies mainly include reading and playing football and table tennis. Next up, we have Bhuvaneshwaran.
Hello everyone, I'm Bhuvaneshwaran. I hail from Salem, Tamil Nadu. I did my undergraduate in B Mechanical Engineering from Sona College of Technology, Salem. Post that, I worked as a simulation engineer for a year in Value India Private Limited in the research and development sector. My hobbies include playing badminton and traveling.
Thank you, Bhuvaneshwaran. Megha, if you could introduce yourself next.
Hello everyone, my name is Megha Pandey. I am an architect from Delhi. I did my graduation in architecture, post which I worked for 12 months as an architectural writer and researcher. On the hobbies front, I love reading, writing, dancing, and exploring local areas.
Thank you, Megha. Prateek.
Hello everyone, my name is Prateek and I'm from Chennai. I have a background in law. I did my undergraduate from National Law School of India University in Bangalore. Following that, I worked for 18 months as an associate at a firm that specialized in trademark law. My hobbies include reading, playing badminton, and football.
Okay, Saundarya.
Hello everyone, I am Saundarya Nair. I have completed my undergraduation in Electronics and Communications Engineering from SRM Chennai. After that, I worked with Deloitte as a consultant for 2.5 years.
Thank you, Saundarya. And finally, Vikas, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, I'm Vikas J. I'm from Bangalore. I finished my undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering from BMS College of Engineering, Bangalore. So after that, I worked for 2 years as a product engineer with Hewlett Packard Enterprise.
Okay, thank you, Vikas. Great. So, Vikas, can you please take us through the admissions criteria of SJMSOM IIT Bombay?
Sure. Okay, so I'll just go over the admission criteria first. So any student who is interested in applying will need to have a valid 2023 CAT scorecard. Further on, a minimum degree of 4 years is mandatory. However, it is not just limited to engineers. Candidates from any discipline with a bachelor's degree of minimum 4 years is eligible to apply. Further on, a candidate with 3 years of bachelor's program is also eligible, provided they have a master's degree as well. Another point, candidates holding a diploma degree can also apply, provided they have 3 years of graduation degree after diploma. In case it's a 2-year degree, candidates will need to have a master's degree as well. So basically, the bachelor's degree or an equivalent qualification degree obtained by the candidate must entail a minimum of 4 years of education after finishing their higher secondary education. That is 10+2 or equivalent.
Okay, thank you, Vikas. I hope that is clear because we get a lot of queries regarding the 4-year bachelor degree. So I hope it is clear. The admissions criteria is clear to everyone. Next up, Megha, can you take us through the admissions timeline that we are currently expecting?
Yeah. So our application form is live now, and the deadline to fill the application form is January 31st. To avoid last-minute hiccups and payment issues, we recommend the candidates to complete filling the form a couple of days in advance. Post that, the list of candidates shortlisted for interview will be released by 3rd week of February. This year, SJMSOM will be conducting offline interviews within the IITB campus from 7th to 10th of March. Further communication will be shared with the shortlisted candidates over email. And finally, the final list of selected candidates tentatively will be released in the 1st week of May.
Okay, can you also take us through the application form?
Sure. So regarding the application form, the candidates are required to firstly fill and save the form within 50 minutes of logging in, as the form will automatically time out after 50 minutes. The candidates are required to fill in their personal details, academic details, work experience, if any, and personal assessment questions such as why MBA and their domain preferences. One query which we have been receiving a lot from candidates is from candidates who have completed a 3-year diploma degree post their 10th. and had a lateral entry in the UG course. So in such a case, regarding the filling of graduation course, the candidate is required to fill in their second year graduation course in the first year column and so on.
Thank you, Megha. Okay, so I think now we can move on to what people are most waiting to hear about, which is the interview experiences. And I think this would help a great deal to get an idea about what kind of questions are asked during the interviews and prepare for the upcoming interviews, not just for SJMSOM, but also other B schools. So starting with Bhuvaneshwaran, can you please tell us how was your interview experience at IIT Bombay?
Yeah, sure. So, like every other interview, my interview also revolved around common question like tell me about yourself and general VQs. But apart from that, as I was a mechanical engineer, there were few questions testing my knowledge on mechanical engineering. But most of my interview revolved around throwing me in a situation mostly oriented off general affairs and everything. So, to give an example, since I come from Tamil Nadu, I was given the question of Kaveri dispute between the two states, and I was put in a situation if I was a board member, how I would resolve the issue and what are the top 3 recommendations I would give. And I was cross-questioned like 3 levels deep in the different PORs that I handled during my undergraduation, and I was given situations that I did not expect. So mostly my interview revolved around handling situations, testing a lot on my leadership skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhuvaneshwaran. Megha, could you please give us your experience next?
So in my interview, there were 2 panelists. My interview also started with tell me about yourself. And because I have a background in architecture, which is considered an unconventional course to pursue prior to MBA, a lot of questions revolved around my interest in MBA post architecture. I was asked questions like, why do I not want to continue pursuing architecture, and why the shift to MBA? Then I was asked how I see myself fitting in this environment, and what different perspective do I bring in, and what do I expect to extract from my peers and batchmates. Post that, there were some VAQ based questions, some situation based questions, where I was asked if I would be comfortable being in a group of people who probably come from a technical background. Also, because I'm from Delhi, a lot of questions also revolved around the political situation in Delhi. And lastly, there was some briefly touched upon academics, which were very general in my case, but mostly my interview was VQ based and situation based.
Thank you, Megha. Pratik, if you can go next.
Sure. So I have a background in law, and my experience was somewhat similar to Megha's. It started out first by asking for my introduction, and following that, they were curious to know about why I had made the shift towards pursuing an MBA, and why didn't I pursue alternatives such as going for a master's instead. The questions I was asked related to law, I could divide it into 2 categories. One was more specific to the subjects I learned during my undergraduate, as well as the type of work I did during my time in the firm. So, since that was related to trademark law and intellectual property, I was asked questions regarding copyrights, patents, trademarks, the differences between each of them. I was also given certain situations where I was asked to provide advice on what would be the best path forward if a client approached me with a certain situation. Apart from that, the other type of legal questions I was asked was more related to general knowledge. Supposing there was some item in the news relating to, say, the Kaveri water dispute, I was asked about what are the legal provisions dealing with them. And I was also asked certain questions testing my general knowledge of both the Constitution as well as criminal law. Apart from that, the interview mostly revolved around some of my hobbies, and it was mostly restricted to the WorkX as well as my undergraduate experience.
Thank you, Pratik. Next up, we have Saundarya.
All right. So my interview basically started from the application form that I had filled out. The first question there was why MBA. So the panelists, which were 2, they read out lines which I had written in my answer, and they questioned of my choice of words and why did I think and why did I write. I did quote somebody, so they were questioning on why did I follow that person and how do they inspire me. Moving on, they asked me about my educational background first. I am an electronics and communication engineer. So they asked me my favorite subjects, and they cross-questioned me a little on why would I like a certain subject. I also have a background in consulting, so they questioned me about the industry in whole. And there were also a lot of questions on my previous organization. Why was I wanting to shift if there was nothing negative with the organization or the job? So they went 2 to 3 levels deep in that. They also asked me certain challenges that I had faced and the biggest problem that I had faced at work and how did I tackle it. They intensely questioned me on value added questions like my strengths, my weaknesses, what was I doing to improve it. They've also asked me questions which were a little out of the blue to throw me out of balance. For example, I was sitting and they were asking me, what are the things around you right now and what do certain things mean in your life? I was also questioned about my family background a little and how has that affected me as a person in building my personality and the principles that I abide. The next round of questioning was mostly around my work ex. Since I come from come with an IT experience, I was asked things like difference between agile and waterfall. I was also asked a few general knowledge questions like the number of districts in Kerala, because I do come from there in part. And I was also asked a little about what are the happenings around the state that I come from and the city that I come from. Lastly, there were 2 to 3 level deep questioning on why exactly I wanted to do an MBA and was I sure this was a path I wanted to go on. The interview concluded by talking about my hobbies. I had mentioned in my form that I enjoyed going to the gym. So I was asked why did I like going to the gym so much, and also general questions on what does exercising do and how does it relate to mental health and things on those lines.
That was very insightful, Sandhya. Vikas, if you can go next.
Sure. So my interview experience was, comprehensive as well. I had 3 panelists in my interview. So the first panelist started out, with a basic formal question of having to introduce myself, and further on, whatever points that I had covered in that, introduction, right? Many of the questions were based out of that. So that's another sort of important tip as to how you can frame how you can direct how your interview should go. Further on, based on the introduction, the next few questions were very general knowledge based or current affairs based. So I was asked about the 5 countries that India shares a border with, 3 stock exchanges outside of India. And next, it moved on to a very behavioral sort of questionnaire, wherein I was asked for a word to describe about myself. And after that, it was what my unique selling point is. So at this point, the interviewer was basically trying to gauge as to how self-aware I am and how I rank myself. After this, the next panelist took over. This was mainly revolved around the work experience that I had at Hewlett Packard Enterprise as a product engineer. I worked there for 2 years. So I was quizzed about my general work profile there, the different tools I use. It was about Power BI and Microsoft Excel. There were a few in-base questions or deep-based questions about the app itself and how I was using those apps for my general work during my tenure there. Further on, I had also mentioned in my introduction that I had a Kaizen, wherein I ended up saving I ended up saving about 90% of time in my work through work automation. So I was also quizzed about what a Kaizen is and have I done anything more after that. Uh, Besides this, there were a few more scientific questions based on my job profile. After this, I was cut off by another panelist who then asked why I wanted to do an MBA in the first place. Behavioral questions again, why MBA, what I do after an MBA, and where I see myself, 3, 4 years down the lane, and how this degree would actually benefit me and my future. So this was my whole interview experience.
Okay, thank you, Vikas. Now, speaking about my interview experience, it began with the basic questions like introduce yourself, why MBA, and a couple of behavior questions. And apart from that, my interview was mainly focused on the work experience. I have 2.5 years of work experience, and it was in the supply chain domain. So I was extensively quizzed on the supply chain domain, and it eventually shifted to the problems which were happening at that time, which was the Russia-Ukraine war. And eventually, it again went into the supply chain domain, how that affected the supply chain, how I reacted to these changes in the supply chain and what I would have done if I was a manager in my company at that time, and what are the actions I might have taken to, foresee these kind of changes. So I was put into a lot of these situation-based questions, and that is how my interview went. The second panelist was mostly quiet throughout my interview, and he only came up once or twice to ask some general knowledge based questions about the Russia-Ukraine war and also the Suez Canal incident. So this was my MBA experience, and I think what most of the candidates might see here is that there is a common pattern in these questions, and one of the most important questions in any B school interview is why MBA. So I think we should also look at how to strategize and prepare for these kind of questions. So maybe Bhuvneshwaran, can you tell us how did you prepare for the why MBA question?
So yeah, so preparing for my interview experience, I would say. So firstly, like every other college, like SJMSOM gave a like a very exhaustive set of PI kit, which was very helpful, not just for the each domains. They gave a very good breakdown of what are the types of questions asked, along with how to tackle those questions. There were few examples for the even the VAQ questions, like how to tackle it, to how to frame it. So that is how I prepared. And generally, one area which I wasn't good at, but I had to prepare, and which turned out to be a good hobby, was news, I would say. So aspirants who are preparing for the interview, always be in touch with what is the current thing that is going on. You should just divide yourself in preparation for three categories in terms of news. Always be updated with top five international news, the national news, and your state news that you come from. So always be in touch with what is happening in and around you. And if you are a fresher, be thorough with your academics that you have learned, because most of your things will be revolving around that. And work people, you will be also expected to answer from your undergraduate. Despite the number of work experience that you have, you might be also questioned upon your undergraduate. It is not just that even the panelist would know that you have completed 3 years of your undergraduate. It is just to test, like, how do you deal those questions is what importantly that matters. And apart from that, how do you frame your answers also matters. So why MBA question, or let's say tell me about yourself, can be framed in n number of ways, and you might have only one answer, but the way you say it is what matters. Because at the end, you should drive your interview in the way that you feel that this is my strength, and that is what gives you an advantage over everything. So yeah.
Thank you, Bhuvneshwaran. I see we have a couple of questions in the chat, but we will be taking those towards the end. So, Megha, if you could tell us how you prepared for your interviews.
So the PI kit was very helpful for me as well, especially for regarding information regarding the different domains in management. Apart from that, I personally focused a lot on VAQ-based questions. So I made it a point to have clarity on why I want to pursue MBA, what are my strengths and weaknesses, and why SJMSOM. Because these were the questions which were asked a lot to me in my interview process, and these went several levels deep. I believe the candidates were trying to gauge my level of interest in and my how much clear I was about wanting to pursue MBA from SJMSOM. Apart from that, there were few stress-busting situations where I was asked that they made it a point to go multiple levels deep again to just understand whether I am being honest to my answers in the first place. I made it a point to brush up my academic knowledge. I stayed abreast with current affairs and news, and especially information which regarded to everything that I mentioned in my introduction, such as the city I come from, the background I have, my interests, hobbies, etc. So apart from that, I also made it a point to uh, make sure that I can control myself, calm myself down in stressful situations, because we were given some situation-based questions which could kind of put a candidate in pressure or stress during the interview process, such as how would you react if you come across a group of people who belong from a different domain, a common domain, and you are the outsider. So how would you react to such situations? So these were some things. So I would suggest the candidate to be very sure about their introduction, to make it a point, because they can drive the conversation through the introduction. So to make it a point that you are aware of everything that you're saying and you're being honest and you are ready to face multiple level questions based on.
Thank you, Megha. Pratik, can you share your experiences?
Yeah, sure. So, like the others, I too relied on quite a lot on the PI material that has been provided to us. Apart from this, I also made a point of keeping up to date with the latest news. I expected that there would be a lot of questions related to current affairs, and that was the experience I faced during the interview. I made sure to follow both the news related to my state as well as what was going on nationally and internationally, and try to identify the specific connections that could be made to my specific background. Since I am a lawyer by background, I try to look at any discussion of particular legislations, international treaties, or say court judgments that were recently in the news, try to understand the different perspectives coming from renowned lawyers, the kind of debates that are usually involved in these issues, as well as trying to come up with my own solution or offer my own opinion on these matters. Apart from this, I also made it a point to have several practice sessions, either with my friends or persons, with my family members, just to get myself familiar with the interview settings so that I could remain calm and composed while being questioned. I think it's very important for candidates to do this because it's not just your knowledge which is being tested, but also your personality and your ability to remain composed during, say, stressful situations that might be put forward to you during your interview experience. So I would say the most important thing is to have as much practice as possible. Try to find the link between your specific domain and whatever is coming in the news. It might be related to, since it was law, it had to do a lot with judgments and legislations. Also, the other point which I prepared for was why I was looking for an MBA. So here I tried to first draw a connection between what I had done before appearing for CAT exam and obviously sitting before the interview. So I tried to speak about my experiences both in undergraduate as well as my work experience. What are the sort of skills and experiences I went through? How what I hope to learn through an MBA program, the sort of peer-to-peer learning and the diverse group that I might come across, and what are my future plans after graduating from the MBA program. Yeah.
Thank you, Pratik. Before we continue with this, I see we have a lot of questions on the chat now, so maybe we can take a few before going ahead. So I think the first two questions are similar, which is related to a gap year. I have a gap year, and how do I tackle this during an interview, or would a gap year be an issue during the interview? So I think Bhuvneshwaran, you can take this up since you have a gap year. You had a gap year.
Yeah, sure. So I think I would be right to answer this question. I had a gap year of almost a year. So the thing is that there are three reasons I would just divide this, like why there is a gap year. First thing is that you would have had a personal health issue, or due to some inevitable reasons, you would have pushed to take a gap year. Second thing is the people who are like CAT was not their first priority, who was trying for the other government jobs, let's say UPSC aspirants. At a point they realized the track was not going further and they shifted here. And third would be like people who honestly took the gap year just for the CAT preparation. But I would say like the third situation is not something that you should talk in the interview, because there are people who come up with a work experience and who have cleared the CAT as you did. So that wouldn't be an advantage if you talk for those reasons. If you fall under the first category, be honest is what I would say. If you have some valid reasons why you took a gap year, be honest about it and uh, tell it. But the most important thing that I would say is like I almost had like 20 plus interviews before coming into MBA. But the most important thing is hardly in any like two or three interviews I was asked about my gap year. So the most important thing is how are you driving your interview? Because like I drove my interview in such a way that my gap year was not being questioned. You should make sure the way you start your interview, the way you answer each question, it should be in a way that your gap year is not highlighted anywhere. But if it is highlighted, be honest if you have a valid reason. If you are an aspirant, we have in multiple B schools, you can see there are aspirants who have multiple gap year due to, let's say, UPSC preparation on something. If you have gap year due to that, be sure of what you were preparing for. You would be cross-questioned on different level, and the people who take your interview will also be having knowledge on what you were preparing. So be prepared of what you were preparing for, and also be ready to answer why are you now shifting towards this track, because you were in a cat was not your first priority, and why are you now taking this is what I would say. But most importantly, make sure that your gap year is not highlighted. Drive your interview in such a way. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhuvneshwaran. That was quite comprehensive, and I hope that answered your questions. Second question is, being a fresher, I wanted to know what kind of questions I can expect. Also, are there any resources provided to prepare? Okay, I think I can take this up. Okay, to answer your second question first, the SJMSOM does provide a PI kit, which is quite comprehensive. It covers a lot of subjects, and it gives you an overview of what sort of topics, what sort of things to prepare for the interview. Other than this, we also assign a PI buddy, which is a first year at currently studying MBA at SJMSOM IIT Bombay, to be your PI buddy. And you can get in touch with him or her for whatever doubts you have, and he or she will help you in actually preparing for these interviews. And that is a very good, let's say, uh, point of view to get, because that person is currently studying in the B school, and he or she will actually help you prepare on what are the necessary things that you should be mentioning in your interviews, and also what kind of panelists might be taking the interviews, and those kind of questions or information can be taken from the PI buddies. So I hope that answers your question. And moving back to where we were discussing on the exact same topic, which is how should we prepare. So Megha, can you give us your inputs on how, sorry, Soundarya, can you give us your inputs on exactly how we prepare?
Sure. So the first thing, as the rest of my batchmates said, the PI kit was extremely helpful. Not just because it covered different domains, it also emphasized on specific questions which were fairly a little more important than the others. Two questions that come to my mind right now are, first, as we have already discussed, why MBA? So you have to be clear on that, and we have established that quite in detail. The second and a very important question is, tell me about yourself, because there's a 90% chance that your interview is going to begin with either of these two questions. Now, the answer to these questions decides how the rest of your interview is going to go. So I would suggest everybody who's preparing, irrespective of the B school that you're targeting, you take some time, introspect a little, see what you've done in your life, what are the things that you've achieved, what are the things that hold meaning to you personally, because that is something you will be questioned on. And things that you say in those two answers, there's a good chance that the next follow-up questions are going to be from that. For me personally, as we were just telling you guys that there's a PI buddy who's assigned. So I did reach out to my PI buddy who was assigned to me, and I spoke to them and I asked them what are the kind of questions and how was their experience. And they also advised me on how should I build my tell me about yourself answer, because I was actually very confused on where should I start, how should it end. And that's exactly what happened with me in my interview. I was asked, tell me a little about yourself. And the next 5 to 15 minutes of my interview actually went around that one answer that I gave initially. So focus on that a lot. Apart from that, your undergraduation domain holds a lot of importance. Irrespective of whether or not you come with a work-ex, be prepared to answer questions. I know that a lot of us are from very different domains. So don't just think that now that I have 2-3 years of work-ex, they are not going to go back. They might just shift gears during your interview, put you on hold, and go back to what you've studied and how much do you remember. Another very important question to prepare is, especially if you're a fresher, what are your favorite subjects? So it's not only important to know your favorite subjects and know the technicalities of them, but also why do you have them as your favorite subjects? So have something which is sort of a story that relates to, okay, so this was my favorite subject and this is what I had done or have done, which relates to that. So something to take away from this is that everything should tie together very well. It is sort of a story that you're telling about your whole life and the things that you like, the things that drive you. So it should reflect in every answer that you give. apart from these, be prepared to be put in uncomfortable and under pressure situations, because that is going to happen. I was asked questions out of the blue that red is a very auspicious color that is considered. What is your take on that? Now, you might not be prepared for something like that. So just remember to stay calm. Two things apart from all the preparation that goes into and the technical details and the general knowledge and the VAQs that you prepare, two things that you have to remember primarily are staying confident and staying calm. Because if you have that sense of mind and the sense of calm around you, you can answer questions even when put in uncomfortable situations.
Vikas?
Yeah, sure. So my sort of prep or a tip from my side would be, again, concentrate more on that tell me about yourself question, because that is kind of a glimpse into who you are, right? With the very limited amount of interaction that you'll have with the interview, in the interview, it is very hard to give your whole profile. However, if you frame your tell me about yourself question in a very uh, a suitable way in which you want the interview to go, it'll help you and it will help the interviewee to gauge your interviewer gauge your profile as well in a very easy way. So how I prepared for this was I had a very structured tell me about yourself, which covered where I studied, what my background was, how it led to my work experience. Further on, what I did in my work at my company, and after that, it was basically what my extracurriculars were at my college, followed by my hobbies and interests. So right now, the interviewer had certain points that he could play around with when he quizzed me. So it moved to the work experience first, wherein I was quizzed about a lot as to how or general knowledge about my company in the first case. So my tip would be to know about what you're saying in the first place. So if you have WorkX, then be thoroughly prepared about your whole company and what exactly the company does and where it is in the social or where it stands amongst its peers as well. Further on, after that, it moved to the tools that I use. So again, a general preparation as to how deeply you're acquainted with the tools that you work will also help. After that, coming to the current affairs preparation, I would suggest reading up on a lot of newspapers, during that whole interview season. That actually helped me be more aware about what is happening within the country as well as outside. After that, it was mostly the behavioral questions, right? So that again, it depends on the personality that you want to put out in front of the interviewer. Uh, you can also make a story, like as my batchmate said, right? Also all boils down to your story, why you want to do an MBA in the first place. So if you have a work experience, it could be related to the managerial experience that you were, subjected to, and how that inspired you to take up a managerial position in the first place, or how you want to bring about a change at a very high managerial position, and that could be another reason why you want to do an MBA. So all this is a very personalized answer, I feel. And the tip here would be to know yourself from within and have a very solid reason as to why you're pursuing this degree in the first place. Further on, just to get another idea about the college and different subjects that the college provide, will also to get to know about these topics as well will be useful a lot, because it shows that you've done your research on the college and how interested you are in actually joining the college in the first place. So for this, the PI kit that was sent to by the college itself helps a lot. It is a very comprehensive document that covers almost all the subjects that are provided and gives a brief overview as for each and every topic that is covered within the subject. So be it finance, economics, marketing, etc. So this also helps you in not only, I mean, you have this single source of truth, right? You don't have to go around various sources trying to find out or figure out where you have to read up from. This actually helps you keep everything at one place. And further on, as one of my batchmates mentioned, the PI buddy that was allotted as well is very helpful, be it through clearing the doubts, any doubts regarding the college, as well as just helping you calm down during the process itself. Further on, because this was my fourth interview, I wasn't really stressed out or anything. But it always helps. Someone giving you that the words of encouragement always help. And further on, I think it further ended with an interesting question, right? Why SJMSOM? So for that, again, I would suggest all the interested applicants to go over the college institute's profile and know more about the institute in the first place, the professors, the various clubs that the institute has, and the different subjects offered. All this, even the alumni base, right? If you bring that up, it's interesting. It piques the interest from the interviewer, right? So it shows that you have interest in joining, and this usually helps.
Thank you, Vikas. On that note, we have a very similar question from the chat, which is what are some unique things that SJMSOM can provide me? And I think each of us would have a different thing to answer in this. So maybe we can start with Bhuvneshwaran again.
So yeah. So like why SJMSOM is a very interesting question for me. And like most of the aspirants would have like common factors that they would compare with every other B schools, let's say ROI, placements, and every other factors that they would look upon. But I wish I had knew certain things that I did not knew before coming. But these are something that is unique from other B schools that we have here. One is thing is that the low batch size. I mean, everything has its own advantage. Low batch size here has a very good competitive advantage, and the competitive advantage. What I mean here is, let's say when it comes to case competitions, you know, we have a good advantage where only our college has a shortlist for few of the case competitions. That gives you a separate advantage. And talking about position of responsibilities, SJMSOM has a unique set of responsibilities that you can take off. Not just the India's largest cultural fest, but the Asia's largest cultural fest. You will have the chance to be the core committee member of the Mood Indigo that happens in IIT Bombay. Not just that, the India's largest ESL, that is an IIT Bombay. You'd be the chance to be the convener of the cell, which I did not knew, but there are multiple people in our batch who has different set of responsibilities in the IITB level clubs. And also to say, the infrastructure that you have over here is like very enormous. The ecosystem that IIT Bombay provides. As a SJMSOM student, you have access to each and everything in and around this campus. High class facilities, right from sports to swimming pool and everything. It is like very enriching and it is very useful. So that's my view on this.
Thank you, Bhuvneshwaran. That was a lot of points. If anyone would like to add any more points, otherwise we will take up the next question.
So, adding to Bhuvneshwaran's point, one more point which I'd like to add, which contributed to me choosing SJMSOM, was the fact that you have the luxury to choose electives from different departments as well. So, not only do you get to interact with students and faculties from different walks of life, you also get to study courses which could be part of your electives in your second year when we choose the elective. So, that was one factor which helped me finalize my decision regarding SJMSOM.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next question. We have a question from Nishant, which is, I have a diploma post which I did my graduation degree of 3 years. How do I fill the form? So I think Megha, you can take this up.
Okay, so for someone who's done a diploma post the 10th standard, we believe it would be a 3-year diploma. And post that, the candidate is required to complete a minimum of 3 years of education. Essentially, the candidate needs to have 6 years of education post their 10th standard. In this case, the candidate will be filling their first year score, the second year graduation score as their first year score, and so on. I hope that answers the query.
So I hope that clears it. Just to add on, in the application form, there is an option to select between 12th and diploma. So once you select diploma, you will be filling in 3 years of diploma. And then for your next 3 years of graduation degree, you will be filling in the marks. So moving on, I have heard that SJMSOM only has engineers in their batch profile. Is that the case? I think the best people to answer this question would be Megha, who is an architect, and Pratik, who is a lawyer. So Megha, if you can.
Yeah, so as you can see, we have non-engineers in this mix of people itself. In our current batch also, we have people from different backgrounds, apart from engineering. Pratik, of course, has a background in law, and I have come from architecture background. Apart from that, we have graduates in science as well as agriculture. So we, from SJMSOM, we encourage people from different backgrounds to come and fill the application form, because it is an interesting pool of people that we have in our current batch, and we hope to see that in the coming batches as well.
Pratik, would you like to add something?
Yeah, sure. So I just like to reiterate a point which was mentioned by one of the batchmates earlier. So I just make a connection to the small batch size we have here. So because we have people coming from different academic backgrounds, it really leads to an enriching experience where you have people with different perspectives coming together, and the sort of interaction you have when you're dealing with the curriculum we have here, it really adds up to the uh, proper MBA experience you have in mind. So my background, as was mentioned previously, is in law, and I should just add that it shouldn't be a barrier to anyone who's considering applying to SJMSOM. There is plenty that you'll get to learn from your batchmates over here, and you'll find a lot of them coming from different walks, whether it is the companies they worked at or even the academic experiences. And it really adds to something which is truly enriching.
Thank you, Pratik. Next question is, should GAM apply at 98 percentile? Okay, Prashant, first of all, I believe that you should go through the admission criteria of SJMSOM IIT Bombay, and if you are eligible to apply for SJMSOM, you should definitely apply. And as you can see on our website, that 90 percentile is the cutoff for general category. So at 98, you should definitely apply to SJMSOM, assuming of course that you clear all the other cutoff criteria mentioned in the admissions criteria page. Moving on, I don't have a considerable work ex, and my grades are also just above average, so I'm very under pressure already. How should I approach the interviewer with content? Okay, so I will answer this question as well. Siddharth, I believe that uh, if you look at the interview experiences of the six of us, you will find a lot of common points. Even not just work ex, there are also points which are mainly related to academics or behavioral questions. So those are the questions that you can actually prepare for in advance, and you can actually tailor your interviews to make a difference on where the interview goes. So, for example, the first question in any interview is usually, tell me about yourself. So, in that, if you, let's say, mention something interesting, you leave tidbits for the interviewer to, make him curious, then that is something he will pick up upon, and you will actually be able to control the flow of the interviews. So, that is how I believe you can uh, approach interviewers, even if you do not have any work experience. Moving on to the next question, how will having a small batch size be useful? I think this was already covered by a few of the panelists. I heard that SJMSOM is an ops-heavy college. Is it good for people interested in marketing? Okay, so if someone would like to take this up.
Yeah, I'll take it up. So, giving an answer for that, SJMSOM has seasoned professors from all domains, while we do have multiple professors of practice in the field of operations, excelling in their research and delivering excellent lectures. Marketing, which was asked in the specific question, has a good mix of faculties as well. Professors have significant relevance to the current field of studies, and the case-based methodology that is being currently the practice pedagogy in SJMSOM provides for lectures that are very interesting. In addition, we have finance as well, for example, which has seasoned faculties with some experience in investment banking and financial consulting. Have a look at our professors from our websites that we are the SJMSOM official website, and you'll get a general holistic idea as to the multifaceted faculties we do have. Yeah, so I think that should answer the question.
Thank you, Vikas. I think the last question is, can you briefly touch upon the opportunities in SJMSOM in the first year you guys had in terms of academics as well as culturals? Okay, so would someone like to take this up?
I can take that question. So as we've already discussed, you can take courses interdisciplinarily also, and there are a lot of different departments that we have. So you don't have to worry at all about the academic front, because you will have exposure to all the domains and in detail. That is so that you get a fair idea of what the whole MBA journey is about and what are the different opportunities that are presented to you and will be presented to you in the future. Apart from the academics, as we've already discussed at SJMSOM, we focus on both academics and extracurriculars very prominently. So both extra and co-curriculars are treated very fairly here. You will get ample opportunities in terms of any domain, singing, dancing, drama, anything that you are interested, name it, you have it here. And not just the extracurriculars, the co-curriculars as well. I think one of my batchmates has spoken a little about the case competitions and the various national level competitions that we have here. So be it academics, extracurriculars, or co-curriculars, a good heavy focus is given on all three domains.
Thank you, Saundarya. Apart from these, we also had a couple of FAQ questions which needed to be answered so that people are more aware. First of all, we have had a lot of candidates asking about they had some problem with their reservation certificates during the CAT filling the CAT form, so they were not able to opt for reservation at the time. So will they be able to opt for reservations during the application filling at SJMSOM IIT Bombay? And the answer is yes. You can apply for reservation provided you get the certificate before you come for the personal interviews. Second, there is no provision for new registration on the login page. So some people are not able to see the registration link, new registration link on our website. So in such cases, first of all, try to use the incognito window and check if that works. If not, you can always use the login from Google button to log in through Google and register from there. That will not cause an issue. So if you are facing an issue that the registration button is not seen, you can always click on login from Google. Apart from this, we are free to answer any questions. You will find my number as well as Megha's number on our website, and we are quite active on all social media. You are free to reach out to us and ask any questions at any time, and we will reply your queries as soon as possible. And I believe if anyone has anything to add, they can. Otherwise, we are done with this webinar.